What a great pleasure it is to welcome Michelle Acton, who is the Chief Customer Officer at Old Mutual Corporate. Michelle, greetings to you and thank you for joining us. Welcome. It's lovely to have you with us.
Thanks, Aki. It's really great to be here.
Listen, it's been an absolutely fascinating time over the last 2-3 years in the financial services industry. We've seen so many effects of what the two-pot system has had on markets and people's spending and what money they've been spending them on. I mean, it's an incredible amount of money that's been released into our economy, which sounds to me, and analyzing it, it's had a really positive effect. But from your perspective, what has the rollout of the two-pot system and its use by retirement fund members revealed about digital engagement and financial services? What have you seen from the Old Mutual perspective?
Oh, great question, Aki. And I think just to put it in perspective, when we talk about our members, we're talking about employed South Africans across all income spectrums. And what we've seen is not just the access side, because that's where everybody's been focused, how much of people claimed, etc. But the other side of that is the channels in which people have claimed and how we've enabled that has had a seismic shift on the industry. So we've seen, often there's this perception lower income people can't access digital, so we need to use paper claim forms, etc. But we've seen exactly the opposite. So with the introduction of this two-part system, we've actually seen that members have been using our digital channels. It's just about making sure you have the right channel available. We've seen fabulous increased engagement levels and also just really around updating people's details. It's really been a seismic shift in the industry in terms of the engagement with members that we've had as retirement funds.
That's amazing. And I guess that's that kind of filters across, businesses and just how people interact with digital platforms, because we're now becoming more digitally savvy. We see that it works better, etc., etc. When you look at the changes, when long-term financial products like, retirement savings, for example, suddenly become something people interact with directly and digitally, that for me I find very interesting, because it almost says, okay, this makes my life easier.
I think it brings in a couple of aspects. I think we know with long-term retirement savings, most people don't even know historically haven't known they're on a fund because it's part of their employment. They don't think it's important to them. All of a sudden, with the introduction of two pots, I'm going to say this, but it's made retirement funds sexy, right? And people now have a purpose to go on and look. So the big win for us is awareness. It's really created a greater awareness for people to understand, am I on a fund? How much do I have in it? And really awareness is like step one in a process of trying to improve member outcomes in retirement and helping people understand greater understanding of really the benefits they have and how it works. People never used to associate it with being theirs, right? It was my employer's fund, or it's, but actually now with two parts and the fact you've now got a savings part and there's money that you're contributing to, you're seeing it going in on a regular basis. It's really making it real. It's making it more personal, and it's really helping people get closer to stuff they otherwise wouldn't.
Yeah, exactly. And it's something that's now tangible. You can see it. It's alive, and also I imagine the engagement is increased, right? Because now I see, okay, this is how much money I've got. Do I have enough? Should I be talking to my financial advisor? Should I be investing more money every single month? So now you're looking at things from a different perspective, and I imagine that does change the relationship between the member and the retirement fund, because there must be a lot more engagement now, surely.
Correct. And I mean, especially in occupational funds, which is the ones you join by virtue of your employment, historically, the member's gone to the employer and the employer's come to us. That's been where the relationship's been, but members haven't really been directly engaging. You've got the one or two who do, the really savvy guys, but that was it. Now, all of a sudden, the ability where members are going directly to the retirement funds to engage, they're logging on, they're getting registration details, they're giving us their contact details. And I know that sounds silly, but that's all been one of the big challenges we've had is we haven't had members' contact details to be able to speak to them. And all of these factors have really helped us from an industry perspective improve things like we can communicate with members so we can educate. We can give you, improving financial literacy, really making sure you're getting the right information at the right time. You know where to go, who to ask. It really makes it a lot more accessible. So I think we've seen a much closer relationship where we're engaging with members we'd never historically engaged with.
Very interesting. There's so many different aspects to this two-pot system that have revealed so many interesting facts about where we are as a society, how we manage our money. The other thing I wanted to ask you about this two-pot system, what does it show about how the world has changed to improve that engagement through the right digital channels? Because every organization is looking at those digital channels, at that engagement with the customer. It's bringing the customer closer to the organizations.
Correct. And I think it's also changing what members' expectations are of their service providers, right? So it's working both ways. People are getting used to the fact that they need instant information at their fingertips. And historically, that was never required of retirement funds. People would get their benefit statements once a year. You were lucky if they read them or they didn't. And that was sort of how it went. Now we're finding that actually people are wanting to be able to access and see things more instantaneously. They're having greater demands of engagement, but they're listening more. And I think that's also a big factor. The digital's enabling us. Historically, members were like, oh, that's not even interesting anymore. But now they're beginning to we're finding our read rates on our WhatsApps we're sending. We're finding our engagement levels, even on emails and that sort of thing, where our open rates, read rates, engagement rates, response rates have doubled or tripled. Now, that's phenomenal in terms of seeing the engagement. And I mean, to give you an example where we've seen significant improvement is around, for example, we administer, let's say, 800,000 customers. And of those, maybe 60,000 in any one month would be actively engaging with us, logging on, viewing values. That's gone up to 160,000. Now, that is an incredible number increase. And that's just the guys logging on, looking, giving us their contact details, etc. That's almost 3 times improvement. And most of that increase we've actually seen through our WhatsApp channels. So people are using WhatsApp as an easily accessible channel that I don't need to get into my web or download an app. I can just go into my WhatsApp and have a look and view value. So I think it's fundamentally changing how people are engaging with us. I mean, one interesting topic, I had an engagement with somebody from Australia the other day, and I was telling him how we now send benefit statements and engage with our members on WhatsApp. He could not believe we were using it as an engagement channel, because everything's on the app. So, in a country like South Africa, where we need to make financial services accessible to everybody, I think WhatsApp is really a tool that we're one of the highest WhatsApp users in the world. And it's about using that in the South African circumstances that also become really important.
It's so interesting listening to you and how your customers are adapting to these digital changes. But I imagine that in the back end at Old Mutual, you've also had to change the way you think about the customer and how you engage with the customer, and you've got to adapt your systems to engage with the customer. So I imagine there was a lot of work and a lot of technical expertise that went on in the back end to tweak your systems, introduce new things. How did you get your team, focused in this direction with this shift? And what changes did you make to the back end at Old Mutual out of interest?
Yo, Aki, that's a loaded question, and we could spend probably about 5 or 6 hours to changing on that. I think one of the big shifts that we've taken is historically there was this perception of you mad if you go fully digital, right? So we've got to make alternative ways and aspects for members to come and engage with us and come and put their claims in. But when you're in an industry as ours, where historically members have never come and claimed from us from their retirement fund, you did it through your employer if you resigned. You had to completely change the way you were thinking to engage, because you've gone from an environment where, in our world, for example, we've got 7,000 employers we work with, to we have to be able to engage with 800,000 customers. Now, you don't do that through your normal channels and your old processes. You have to modernize. You have to make sure that you are changing the way we get things in. So, yeah, I mean, it really was a fabulous journey internally of helping everybody go along the idea of this is going to work. This is what we're going to do it. You know, we did a lot of research around understanding how members want to be engaged, where do they want to be engaged, and taking that feedback. So the one aspect was making sure we invested a lot of money into our front end, right? When you log on, it must make sense. We mustn't use the words that we all understand in financial services, but members don't have a clue. So we had to do a lot of work on the front end, and of course, absolutely on the back end, to make sure we can do things faster, quicker. And of course, like everybody would know, the fraud checks, the security protocols you have to put in place. But actually, we found that shifting from the old paper, you know, you sign this form, scan, email, whatever, hand it in at a branch, that whole paper concept, shifting to digitals, actually meant we can get tighter on our fraud protections as well, which we haven't even touched on, because we have the ability to validate automatically people, their details, etc., to try and make sure we have any alerts if there are concerns. So I think that's also been a shift. But yeah, the changes were fundamental.
Yes,
Both
no,
in the
it's
systems and in our approach.
yeah. No, it's very interesting, and I'd like to dive a little bit deeper into that as we wrap up, because I think there's so many lessons that financial services can learn and take away from this two-pot system. About, I mean, you mentioned the verification, you know, with the amount of fraud that's out there. So using trusted digital channels that people trust and they feel comfortable interacting with. Not only to process transactions, but at the end of the day, what I'm hearing a lot from you, what you're saying is that you're reducing a lot of friction, and then that comes around saving and preservation and supporting better decision making. So you're making life a lot easier for everyone. So what other lessons did you learn from this two-pot system as we go forward?
Yeah, I mean, I think the one thing that was great with the two-pot is it really was that catalyst to force a very quick change and shift holistically into what we've done in terms of moving into that digital. It can be done. You have to be brave. You have to make big changes, but it's worth it. But I think this is just the start, right? I mean, as you mentioned, wherein everybody has got real tight focus on costs and efficiency, because the more, you know, ultimately managing your retirement funds, investing for your retirement funds, the higher the cost, the reducing of the outcomes, right? That's the way it works. So you've got to work in a balance of cost efficiencies and still trying to help members get more for what they're doing. And that has been the benefit of digital, where we've been able to do that now, where our engagement levels have tripled, doubled and tripled, that we can talk to members more frequently and give them better access to information, advice, support that they need at all the various touch points that they need it, which we historically wouldn't have been able to do, because we've got employers and members all over the country. If you think about what you need as a footprint to enable that, if you don't use digital channels. So when we talk financial services, I think everybody looks at holistically, but retirement funds are that thing that, you know, they sit there for 40 years, you come back and fetch them, hopefully, and there hasn't really been that modernized. So it's shifted. So there's been a huge seismic shift, as I mentioned earlier, but I think it's just the start, right? Because people are learning. People talk about how quickly AI is shifting and digital and the ability and members' needs and their need for engagement a lot more. So this is just the start. And I think it's really important that it is absolutely critical. It doesn't help we invest your money really well and you're getting great returns. I mean, that is critically important. But if you don't understand why you're doing it, if you don't understand how it works, and you don't understand the importance, then actually it doesn't matter how sexy your retirement fund if you don't know. And this is the ability to actually create greater awareness, improve financial understanding, because as members, I always say members don't make stupid financial decisions. They make decisions if they're unaware of the consequences of those. And so the greater awareness, the greater education, the more holistic, the more journey we can take, the more trusting that that relationship we can create with the members, ultimately we'll start seeing members' behaviors changing. And we are already beginning to see green shoots of success in terms of changing of behaviors. We're seeing members leaving more money behind. We're seeing people to start contributing more. We're seeing people take up retirement funds because they feel like they were being left out with all the two-pot excitement. So I think these are all big wins in a retirement fund system in ours, as a country like ours, where if you don't save for your own retirement, all you've got is the old age state grant, right? Or you better have a really good relationship with your kids because you might be moving in when you reach retirement. And what we want to do is we need to shift that over time to actually realize that for every South African, it's our own responsibilities to save for our retirement. But how do we make that easy, non-daunting, and show that the process, it's a long one, but it is accessible for everybody.
Fantastic. Wow, Michelle, you've inspired us. You've made me think of a lot of things this morning. And I love the way, I love what you said about this is just the start of the journey, because it tells me that Old Mutual has got lots of things coming up that you're going to be changing. At the end of the day, the customer wins, that customer engagement, the friction. The customer has a better view and a better perspective of where they are, and you're putting the power in your customers' hands, which is absolutely brilliant. So congratulations, Michelle Acton, who is the Chief Customer Officer at Old Mutual Corporate, talking to us about the two-pot system, the changes that it's made to their organization, and how it's made customer engagement with you, the customer, so much better. Thank you for your time, Michelle.
Thank you.